It's 6:06, and we'll call this session to order with a motion to approve our minutes from our May 8th meeting.
I will approve them.
Wait a second. It'll go and then it comes back, but
I can approve them.
thank you. Can you get a second? Adoption of our agenda for this evening. Any omissions or errors? Seeing none. Any members in conflict of interest for this evening? Seeing none. We have nothing on the consent agenda, but we do have Lois Gorman under presentations with us this evening to present to us about PSSC. So welcome, Lois. Oh, no, I have some. I just need sleep.
Can't party with kids, it's the point.
What she was watching with the police
That's the tweet I sent out, Jennifer. That's the tweet I sent. Dad, Zoe wants to talk to you after the meeting.
She would if she saw what I bought one of them yesterday.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me here tonight. The purpose of this is just to kind of give you a very high overview of the Communication Center. If you have any questions or anything through it, please don't hesitate to ask. Hopefully everything here is pretty clear, but if you have any questions. So tonight, I'm just going to kind of give you a very historical view of what Communication Center used to be here for the St. John Police Force. Look at the present day, like who we are, what do we do, who are some of our partners. I'm just going to walk you through an emergency response example. When we receive a 911 call, what do we do with that? Kind of give you some things that we're doing in the future, that we're looking forward to in the future, and with some, what I look at some exciting highlights of the Communication Center. So in the past, police force and the fire departments actually handled their communications internally. They received the call, they dispatched, sometimes I guess they were dispatching themselves, but they handled it all internally. In 1995, the city implemented the PSCC, which is the Public Safety Communication Center, and it was fully staffed with civilian members. So currently, we are a public safety answering point. I want to put that there because often we're referred to as a PSAP. There's a number of different PSAPs around the province, and I'll explain that on the next slide what that actually means. We operate 24/7, 365 days a year. We are a group, we currently have 24 employees who work in the center, and they are very highly trained and have a lot of experience. We have a wide range of experience in there. And they're a group of, I use the word operators and dispatchers. They actually are one person who just changed the role, what they play, but I'll kind of further explain that again. We have an administrative support staff that kind of administers the back end of the CAD application. So we have one CAD specialist who basically manages the database, how we enter our calls, making sure addresses are complete. Any sort of upgrades to the product, they manage that. They do reporting for us, all that kind of back-end stuff. And we have one administrative assistant as well who handles all of those other administrative tasks that are in the department. And I wanted to highlight the technology that we use because our technology is quite integrated. We have one product called CAD, and they're all another one for on the police side is called Crimes, and then we have one in our police vehicles called it's MDB, it's Mobility Solution, and they're all actually created by the same vendor. So the call is entered into CAD, the information can be seen on the police vehicles when they're out around, and then when we're done with the call in the communication center, we end the call, it actually copies over into the crime system, and then the officer can go in and update the report further. So everything is really integrated. We have a mapping solution that we have up on the wall that will bring up our 911 calls, and everything is really highly integrated, and that's actually a really important point for us to the daily operations. So what we do is, I know people often think of communication center, we take 911 calls. We do a lot more than that. It's actually just one piece of the puzzle. So our center here in St. John, we do 911 emergency call taking for the southern New Brunswick jurisdiction. So we take calls from St. Stephen to Sussex and everywhere in between. So 911 calls, we are a primary PSAT. So any 911 call that comes into us, and then if it's something we dispatch for, then we will handle it internally. If it's something in a different territory, our CMP territory, or if it's an ambulance related call, we will transfer the call to the secondary PSAT. We also do a large number of non-emergency call taking. So we handle calls for St. John Police Force, just that 648-3333 number. So that's a big part of our day, and fielding those types of calls for the St. John Fire Department. Any of those departments that we dispatch for, we take non-emergency calls for as well. Alarm call taking refers to alarm companies calling us saying they've had an intrusion alarm at whatever address, or a fire alarm activated at whatever address. So they'll call us, and then we'll dispatch the appropriate first responders. We do police and fire dispatching. We currently dispatch for 2 police departments, St. John and KB, and we dispatch for 7 fire departments right now. It's St. John, KB, Hampton, St. Martin's, Grand Bay Westfield, Simons, and Hampton. So we have 7 different departments we dispatch for fire. In addition to just the call taking and the actual dispatching, we provide a lot of support to police and fire services, like throughout their daily operations. If they want us to look up information in a database, it's called CPIC, it's Canadian Police Information Center. So they'll contact us, we'll look up information for them. We can look up information in our own databases, motor vehicle, anything, any of those types of support we can offer to the police and fire department. We handle that stuff as well. And lastly, we operate as a backup to other PSAPs. There are 5 other PSAPs in the province of New Brunswick, and in the event that a call is overflowed from one of those, we actually have the whole system set up. So if they're particularly busy, then the call will overflow and we'll take it, and we can actually handle the call internally as well.
Do you dispatch as well?
We wouldn't dispatch for them. We would either transfer it back to them, or if it was an ambulance call or a CMP call, we would go ahead and just transfer it to that agency.
So a lot of knowledge required to know what needs to go where, eh?
Absolutely. We have a reference tool, the mapping reference tool. We call it a cross-reference table, and it provides all of the information as soon as you look up any area. They have a lot of handy tools to help them find out where to send the calls.
Yeah, you could have multiple services going to the same place, right, too.
Exactly. I just want to kind of give you a picture of what our center looks like. I'm not sure if anybody's ever been in there, but if you ever want a tour, just let me know and I can set that up. We have 6 consoles that are in the room. The front of the room is our supervisor, and we always have a supervisor on duty. And each of the consoles actually do a different job. Like, they could be fire dispatching, they could be police dispatching, they could be a call taker. And so the operators actually rotate through that on a day, every time we come in for a shift, they rotate through that, so they're kind of doing something new every day. We kind of separate what each area does, and they all have their own roles and responsibilities that they have to perform. So I just want to kind of give you an idea. Now, this is a very high level of what it looks like when a 911 call comes in. They don't always go as easy as this. They're often much more complicated, but this is like a typical call that goes really well. So we receive the 911 call. We get the information. I don't know if anybody's ever called them, but the first thing we want to know is, where are you? We don't need to know anything else at that point. We just know where are you. So if we get disconnected or whatever, we can make sure we send somebody to find you. Where are you? What's your phone number? And then we get the details of the emergency. Once we have the details, we can determine who the appropriate emergency service responder is. If it's ambulance or RCMP territory, we'll transfer the call, and then that's the end of the call from our perspective. But if it's something we handle internally, we will dispatch police and fire. And just as I mentioned before, we'll maintain communication with police and fire through the incident. We track everything when them en route, all that good stuff. We're tracking everything. If they ask us to call, you know, externally a tow truck or anything like that, we make sure we track all that information. And again, just continue to provide support to police and fire as required until the incident has been resolved. This is a very, very high level, but I just want to kind of highlight some of the people that we work with on a daily basis. Of course, Ambulance New Brunswick, RCMP, as well as other policing agencies, the other PSAPs, and this is a list of them. So there's one in Fredericton, Evanston, Kodiak, Bathurst, and Rimouski. So we have a very close working relationship with all those PSAPs. We talk a lot and work together. NB 911 and other province or other departments in the province of New Brunswick as well, whether it's PMCC or DNR, all those Coast Guard. We work really closely with all those people.
So NB 911 is...
They are actually the governing body. I'm not sure if that's the right terminology, but they kind of
bridge.
provide a standard for the 911 service across the province.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So some of our highlights, I kind of did 2017 and then I did a projected for 2018 just based on the first 5 months. So in 2017 we had 39,746 911 calls, which equals to be about 108 per day. 54% of those calls originate in St. John. They may not necessarily live in St. John because it could be a cell phone that just hit a cell phone tower in St. John, but 54% of them is a pretty accurate number. And just to highlight the St. John Police Force calls for service, this is only St. John Police Force. This isn't anything to do with any of the other police departments or fire departments. Calls for service for St. John Police Force last year was 56,661, which means 155 on average per day.
That's that 333 number.
Exactly. Or 911. It's anything that generates a call for service for the St. John Police Force.
But not an emergency call? Or?
It could be.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So for emergency and non-emergency.
Exactly. And then 2018, the number for 911 calls is pretty consistent for year. So 39,825, and again 54% for calls originating in St. John, and calls for service for St. John Police. If this is of course just projected, if it stays consistent, 54,000 is down a little bit. We were kind of talking about what that could be. Could have been the lack of snow this winter. There's lots of things that drive our calls up or down, so it's something that we can certainly look into.
Do you have a gist of how long your average call is?
911 calls or
Both? Either?
both?
Either? Just out of curiosity, because 108 calls, like if they're all 15-minute calls versus 5-minute calls, that makes a very different kind of like how long they're on the phone. Just out of curiosity, if you have an idea.
Have that number right off the top of my head.
What does your gut tell you?
Pardon me?
What does your gut tell you, roughly?
For 3 to 4 minutes. Some calls are really quick, and some calls obviously are take a little longer. Sometimes you're on the phone with the person. Cell phone calls can drive our times up, because if somebody's on a highway and they were in an accident and we don't know where they are, you gotta try to get some information from them. So, any other questions? So in the future, currently we're making preparations for our next generation 911. We're just working with other PSAPs across Canada. This just refers to the ability to receive 911 calls through text messages or through videos, all that new technology that's coming up, or not coming up, that's here, but we need to know how to handle that. So those are just conversations that we're having right now. Currently working on a radio system for the police department, and to just continue to provide excellence in customer service. And that's...
Thank you.
Yeah, really fascinating. Thank you very much for the presentation. I did have a tour before your time, Chief. I did have a tour. I know they let me in very quickly in the room because I was nervous being in the room. Everybody had a call, so the headsets on. But So, yeah, it was interesting. I didn't realize the range of service that we provided to all of those, you know, the other communities and organizations. So I didn't realize that, so thank you for that. The 56,611 calls last year. It'd be interesting to, you know, be interesting to sort of see a breakdown of all the categories of those calls, you know, to sort of say like which, you know, which 56,000, for example, could 10,000 of those be diverted to a 411 citywide system? Like, are you receiving a lot of calls that are very broad in nature in terms of the type of service people are looking for?
Yeah, we can get calls for, like, people just call the police for everything, right?
Yes, of course.
Anything, like, their power's out, they might call the police because they, you know, they want some help and they don't really know who to call. So yeah, there's definitely, it would be interesting to see the breakdown, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hard probably the categories. And then the last comment, I guess, maybe it's a question for you, Chief. I haven't had an update on the trunk radio system. How is that progressing? You know, when we're
Could have a better person.
There you go. Sorry. When is the projected sort of go live day? Do we know? Or
We are working really hard on that project right now.
Yeah.
It's a very busy project. I don't know if I can provide a date at this point exactly because it's kind of a moving target.
Fallish? Or?
Likely.
Okay. Yeah, and then just a comment, I bring that up, just I'm so happy to not read on Lower List City's News Chasers that there's a 3-bell warning going on at you know, Cranston Avenue, or Marvin's having another house party, or Jeff needs to drive home, you know, like it just in terms of police operations, you know, not having blow by blow go down on Lower List City News Chasers. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to letting police and fire do their job without worrying about the news chasers chasing you. So
It's actually being
Lois, can I
please
just
don't report that part.
can I just ask you maybe a comment on, recently we had a structure fire in the north end. Just briefly, can you walk the board through what the role of the operator is with the fire department? Because I think it's important that,
Sure.
that you explain that to them, what that role
Sure.
is.
Once the call comes in and our system will help us determine who to dispatch, so we dispatch those fire trucks. Once the fire trucks arrive on scene, we maintain communications with the fire department throughout the whole incident. So we have an operator who will be dedicated to that incident because we have a fire dispatcher. So if anything else comes in from the fire departments, then somebody else will come in. Right? So yeah, so anything that they need, anything that the fire department requests, we were in constant communication with them. If they need St. John Energy calls, cut the power. If they want to make sure police is aware so that they can shut down certain streets, you know, those types of things. But we do maintain communications right up until the end of the incident.
And so does that person get taken out of the queue for new inbound calls, or just they focus on
It depends on the level of the.
severity?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So one of the things, at a working fire or a police activity, as you're talking about, as Lois explaining those activities that they're helping taking place, they're also recording, so that, for example, 624, car 10 did this, 625, so there's an actual record. So, you know, so afterwards, if folks were to come back and say, well, what did the city services do, or they fail to do something, not only do we have our records management system, but we have live, not only the audio of what's taking place, but it's there, it's spelled out, and it's very, you know, it's very descriptive of how it's done. So they do a lot more than just answering them. 911 is just a small part. It's a very, very busy center, and they have to be very in tune to the activity. They are the lifeline of the officer or the firefighter. They listen and they hear things, and for example, you know, they may pick up on something that somebody else didn't. They need to do a broadcast to a supervisor to say, we believe, you know, this person may be in trouble, or the need assistance officer needs assistance. So they have to be very, very in tune about what's going on in there. So very important part.
One of the opportunities for the center, and Lois and I talked to someone not that long ago, is the center, aside from doing the call taking, provides what we refer to as sort of insurance thing to organizations, because a lot of companies still use call answering service. And one of the things that we talked about before with some key customers was maybe you should be looking at us as providing that service, at a fee, because we're always here and we're always open for business, whereas now they may call someone on a cell phone hoping they're home or whatever. So we're even exploring, out there, is there an opportunity for some key industries, not just, because they're there every day, and as the chief said, everything's well documented, and there may be some business opportunities as we go forward. So we're always looking for other ways of doing business, because those people that are 7/24 because we have to be there. And I know the question came up not that long ago. If you didn't do 911 calls, what would be the impact in your center? Well, as you can easily see based on the numbers, 80% of the calls for service are for police and fire, so we still have to be there anyway providing that service. So from an incremental revenue perspective, we're always looking for other ways to sort of add revenue to the pot too. So if you got any wonderful ideas, let us know.
Well, what about the ambulance services? And I guess
We
just
used to do that, like,
and they were outsourced to some company, and then Medivie came in and sorted it out, picked up the package, which included some contract with somebody else, right?
yeah, that predates the police force, because the center was under the city's direction.
Yeah.
But I believe that's what happened. Someone said we can give it to you at a better price, because I know the city wanted to maintain that service to the ambulance. But I think it became a political thing as well. That's, how long ago now? Is that 20 years now, Liz? Close to it.
I'm gonna, maybe.
It's close to it, yes. So certainly if that came back our way, we're taking initial calls most of the time and handing it off. So who knows, maybe it will circle back, and that'll be another opportunity for the center to do that dispatch as well. We're open for business.
24/7.
24/7, that's right.
This call brought to you by Domino's Pizzas.
There's two numbers, 911 and what, 967, 1111. That's the Ontario one.
And the other thing too, and always test, we have very highly trained operators in that center, and often, I guess, they don't get the credit they do, but I know even some of the letters that come in thanking, internal, like whether it's Chief Clifford or other people, thanking the operators for some of the, their insight or helping with calls for service. So we're very lucky. That's why when it comes to recruiting operators, it's that training piece that they have to get at such a high level of proficiency and be confident that that's what we seek. We don't want just a one body to seek. Before Lois explained, it's a very integrated system. And was there 5 monitors at any time, roughly 4 to 5 monitors at the managing?
Yeah, they're surrounded by monitors.
Well, they're going to be fully knowledgeable, I presume.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
One more quick question. Just wondering about the role in technology. Do you see 5 years from now that technology could help make the job, easier for you, more manageable? Is there a role that technology is playing?
I hope so,
You hope so?
because when we look at it, maybe it's going to make it a little more difficult, because
Okay.
you could potentially be receiving like text to 911,
Okay.
those types of things. So how do we deal? It's just a whole different world. So that's the types of the conversations we're having with this group across Canada and talking about next generation 911. But I hope we do. I hope we get to a point where the technology can help us a little more.
Well, thinking, for example, sorry, I know we got to move on, but just thinking about, I know my phone knows, I'll go somewhere and it'll say, hey, you should take a picture while you're at Java Moose. And
That's
so
right.
is there a way that the GPS and phones and Google and all these things say, we know you just got cut off, but they're at 36 Exmouth or 36
And that's evolving
Caleb, or-
constantly,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking that's going to be much better in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Proceed with Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lois.
Great job, Lois.
So there's going to be an app for that?
So again, this is part of what the 15 minutes each, so the board understands what happens in the police force. So each meeting will be somebody for 15 minutes.
Thank you, Chief.
I never asked if you're going to test us at the end of the year on this.
That's all right.
You have to take calls, Jeff, but
Oh, I couldn't handle it, I'm sure.
Now, can we get a second or so for that?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 9.1, the internal monthly report. Chief, is there anything you'd like to highlight?
Well, there's, but anyway, there's one complaint two complimentary correspondence and no purchases.
Excellent.
See,
Can we get seconder?
Second.
Thank you. 9.2 overtime and court time expense. Anything you'd like to highlight, Chief?
The overtime, just refer that to Marvin if you have any questions.
In the absence of any media, can we get a motion to extend?
Yes, unless there's any questions, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, seconder. Thank you. 9.3 overtime hours utilization report. Any questions on that report? Can I get a motion? Seconder. 9.4.
Jumping around, 9.3.
So the RPF process for vehicles,
RFP,
what did I just say?
or RPF.
I'll move the recommendation, but
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Sure. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Or can we get a seconder first, then you question?
Second.
Thank you, question.
Just, it says funding is available within the operating budget for this expenditure. Do we know what the funding is and where this is and whether this was on par with our estimate?
So, sorry, I couldn't, but we're on the vehicle one here?
We're on the vehicle one, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so in the budget, there was allotment for vehicles in that budget. I can tell you that we are $200,000 below the allotment that was set for.
Okay.
Because there's some contingency money that's built in for some other things. And in this tender, I just would note, it's for $219,000, this is bare bones. We know what we have to replace.
Yep.
In the fall, this organization needs to do a needs analysis on vehicles and do procurement totally different than what we've done in the past for next year. The total bill would, because we get 7% back, so it's about $200,000.
Quick question, Chief. I assume it must be, just trying to follow along, sorry, the gear, so the Dodge, on top it says 31,000 and then goes to 40,500. Is that equipped? Or, I'm just trying to follow the.
No, actually,
It's a different vehicle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One is for an unmarked, the top one, John?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is consistent. You typically, do you consider life cycle costs to some of these, like you're buying other Charger pursuits?
Yeah, so one of the things that happens in our vehicles now is that we actually work with fleet management of the city of St. John.
Yeah.
Myra and I just had a meeting with them this week with regards to this whole process. And you're exactly right. That all has to be part of go forward as to how we do our vehicles and the costs of our, we have to look at not only that vehicle, but whatever costs been with that vehicle in the past. What do we think the life cycle of that vehicle will be? There's a lot of things that need to be done. That's why it needs to start in September and be prepared by December. So when the budget's set in January, we can order vehicles. But we've done all our homework and there's a number of things. We need to bring vehicles in and test them for a day to see if they even meet our specs for our officers. Before I would order a vehicle and find out, you know what, this vehicle is too small. When you get a 6'3" officer trying to drive a vehicle designed for a 5'9" driver, it doesn't work. So that process has to change, and that's going to change in the fall.
I didn't even realize Toyota Camrys were made for police.
Well, these would still be.
These are unmarked cars.
Oh, that's, okay.
Well, why
sorry.
would you go to just one last question on life cycle and commonality, parts, blah, 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 blah. Unless there's, like, why would you go to a Taurus for an unmarked? And I know there is a $1,300 difference, right?
Right.
Why would you go to a Taurus if you there's a lot of Chargers out there?
So what happens is quite frankly, this is that we go to an RFP.
Yeah.
Put it out for the different vehicles. So we're looking for an unmarked car that's a 6-cylinder, basically a car off the lot.
Yeah.
Compared to a pursuit Charger with a heavy-duty motor, heavy-duty brakes, heavy-duty transmission, because our cars go 24/7. So we're looking for 2 different vehicles, so the specs are totally different. And when we put that out, that's why you see.
It's
St. John
a
title
different
in.
duty,
It's a different duty.
not an
Right.
unmarked.
Sorry, so our unmarked cars, unless the car has roof lights, it doesn't do pursuits, it doesn't involved in taking prisoners, they're
Yeah,
they're
okay.
2 different types of
Gotcha.
vehicles.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, otherwise we'd be paying a lot extra money for,
Yeah.
and there's no value to the cost.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Can we get a motion to receive and file?
No, it's not received. I already made a
Or,
motion.
sorry, you already did.
Yeah, and it was seconded
Yeah,
as well.
thank you. Moving on to 9.5, our April financial results.
If there's any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just.
If not, can we get a motion to receive and file?
Received and filed.
Seconder? Second. Thank you. 9.6, the PSSC April financial results of their operating budget. Any questions? Can we get a motion to receive and file?
No.
Seconder?
Actually, I think the motion for both is receive and.
Actually,
first one.
Police one is
Yeah.
to send a copy.
Yeah, the first one we had to send a copy to council, and this one's receive and file, and I'll move that.
Thank you. Mike already did, so you're
Okay,
a
second.
seconder. So back on 9.5, the motion would be changed to send to council. And can we get a motion to adjourn open session?
So moved.
Second? Second. Thank you. Thank you.